Hello and welcome to the Foxcatcher Preview. My name's Julian Valence, joined up in Sin City where there's a bit happening in terms of people eating corn on a tin roof because you've got the arc out.
Yeah, Sin City, well, whatever sins are up here right now, they are well and truly getting washed away. I can tell you that. There's a big clean out in the city. It is bucketing down now. It's actually just lined off in the last 30 seconds, but we're on a heavy 10 already. We've got up to 60 mils today, that being Thursday. We'll talk about it when we get to the track intel, but I think they'll go ahead. But Jesus, I tell you what, it's diabolical trying to work out what's going to happen with horses coming out of these meetings.
And it is a big meeting too, to be honest, up in Randwick because we see the return of Via Sustina in the Winx Stakes, and there's also some other up-and-coming horses that we might just touch on a little bit as we get deeper into this show, Nico. But let's start with the track analysis for Mooney Valley. It's out 5 metres the entire circuit. Soft 5 as we speak right now. Now, very different to what you've got up there in Sydney right now. In Melbourne, it's actually 20 degrees. Shock horror, I can't believe it. Blue skies. Now, we might get a little bit of rainfall.
You'd be getting a tan, wouldn't you, mate?
Well, yeah, I'll try. Not that easy, though.
Any excuse?
So
I'm sure you'll find a way.
Yeah, exactly. Always just find a way.
Low-hanging fruit and all that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Add it to the pile. Might get some rainfall on the Saturday, but if we don't, then we should be on a good 4. We should get the drying conditions enough, bit of wind about, especially on Friday as well, to get into the good 4. In terms of the intel and how we think the track's going to play, when we get out to the 5 now, we were here 2 weeks ago and they raced in the True and they raced really well. You could seem to win from anywhere, and I think it was a credit to Mooney Valley because I'd been critical of it in last prep in the autumn, but that raced really well. Now we go out 5 and the numbers do always stack up. You need to be on speed in particular. Obviously, leaders have a pretty good record as well in terms of the ROI, but in particular, I think on speed out 5 metres. Just in terms of your lane stuff, you've got anything to add there quickly, Nico, to the track intel for the Valley this week?
Lanes 1 to 3 is good as any, but perhaps not quite as savage a bias as we have seen in the past when the rail's out 5 metres.
Okay, so that's interesting intel as well. As I said, on-speed advantage, Nico's saying 1 to 3, but might not be as savage as it has been in the past. Let's suck it and see. Let's try and be agile throughout, but that's our early prediction of how the track will play at Mooney Valley. Let's get into the feature race at Mooney Valley this week, Nico. It's the Carlyon Stakes, so let's have a look at the points bet market for this race. And Oak Hill, well, to be honest, they put up with a 3 in front, sort of 320, 330, 340. That got knocked off the board really quickly. It's sort of south of $2.50 now for Oak Hill. It was very good first up. Barrakeel's a really interesting horse, first up here off 287 days. It's sort of $4.40, $4.60. New York Luster next in the market. Golden Boom first up. Mornington Glory was a big drifter when it resumed first up. It's also in single figures. And then obviously most likely the leader Midwest also in single figures. Just want to go back and look at the win of Oak Hill last start. So, Nico, we had Mornington Glory, sort of the savage drifter. The market wanted to be with Oak Hill. It was a small field. Mornington Glory more or less got busted up in terms of it probably just wasn't fit enough. But we speak about this a lot. If your horse isn't fit, sometimes horses can get away with it if they're horses that sit off the back of horses and just have a turn of foot. When you're a horse that absorbs pressure and has to be on speed, you have nowhere to hide. If you are not at just about your peak fitness, you are going to be found out. I think that's what happened with Mornington Glory. Oak Hill had to sit on it, and that's what we saw on that race 2 weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah, 100%. And just to further highlight that, if you look at Gay Waterhouse, who's been an outstanding trainer with a 20% strike rate or above for the last 33 years that she's had a training license since 1992, she gets her horses fit because you know why? Because they all race on speed. Yep. Most of them lead. If not, they're sitting second or third. That's why quite often her horses are good to back early in the prep. That's why quite often some of her horses, when they get 4th and 5th up, can sometimes drop off in terms of their ratings.
Yeah, so interesting point there. Let's look at the map here, mate, and how this sort of evolves because I think this is going to be really interesting from how the bigger pros want to play in terms of how the race evolves because what they want to do with certain horses, and in particular I'm going to talk about is Barrakiel. But in terms of the map, I think Midwest is fast enough even from 5 to get across horses like Dream Zell, who although can lead is not a super fast horse when you compare it to say a horse like Midwest. I think then Mornington Glory probably sort of sits in that death sort of spot. Don't Hope Do's not fast enough. Yes, it led last start, but I don't think it's fast enough over 1,000 to get across either. It's in no man's land for me. It sort of sits out there. Golden Boom is a fast horse again, but I don't know if it's faster than, say, a Midwest. And then where does Barrakiel get? And I think this is going to be the interesting one. I think the punters out there want to know the most is, does it have the early speed in a 1,000-metre race, which it's never been in a 1,000-metre race? We speak about this a lot. It's not an 1,000-metre horse, so probably shouldn't be backing in a 1,000-metre race. Does it get leaders back, or do they have to use it up too much to get leaders back? And if that's the case, then they're 3 back rails, and then they're in a world of hurt either way, aren't they?
That's where I think it ends up. I think Dream Zell will try and come out and at least hold out Midwest for the early part. Their best bet is to make Midwest work a fair bit through that first 200 to 300 metres. And soften him up a little bit. And I think what will end up happening is Midwest will go on with it. I like your map here, but I do think Dream Zell will drop in behind the leader. Mornington Glory, I'm just not sure where it ends up because it's sticky. It's drawn barrier 2, so I don't know if Dream Zell crosses it as well. I think Mornington Glory will let it unfold a bit. Happy to let the other 2 cross it early. It might end up on the outside of sort of Barrack Hill, half a length in front of it, if that makes sense. And then Oak Hill, not sure where he gets to. I'm sure Zara and Connections will be hell-bent on staying off the rail. But it's a bit of a sticky map, I reckon, for punters to dissect.
It is, especially with even the second layer, horses like Golden Boom and Don't Hope Do have drawn wide where they go. Because if they push forward as well and then they've got that line sort of sitting at 3 wide, horses like Oak Hill are going to get back in behind that and they're going to need some luck. And even a horse like New York Luster can be on the outside of Oak Hill and make it tough for Zara there as well. So it could, at some stage, if you're taking 250, 260 Oak Hill, I think at some stage in running, you're going to have your heart in your mouth because at some stage you feel like you're going to need luck in running, just with the way the map seems to evolve here, surely.
Yeah, and look, you speak about 1,000-metre horses. New York Luster probably needs a track where you can run on. We don't know if we're going to get that, so sit back and wait. But she is a real 1,000-metre horse, 3 from 3 at the trip, and she handles the valley well. She won her only start here. So if you're not betting early, I'd suggest waiting. If you do get that run on, I reckon your Luster might be a horse to entertain.
All right, beautiful. So that's the Carlyon Stakes this week, our feature race for Mooney Valley. Right, we're going to rip into my Victorian set, and in the words of Victor Hugo, maybe not Churchill, if you're going through hell, just keep on going because we're not flying at the moment, but we are going to continue to bore through the lava. We're going to start in race 1 here, Nico. So race 1, I'm going to back 2 of them. First up is Ferocious Frankie. Now, it won on debut 1,200-metre Cranbourne race. I've just got this race rating really highly, and look, whether now 1,200 metres off about 96, 97, 98 days or something like that is going to come too soon for it, but I think it's got plenty of ability. Back on gate barrier 1's probably not the ideal advantage, but small field, I just think it's got a great turn of foot. And if the luck comes, I want to be with Ferocious Frankie, but I also in particular want to be with the 6 Audio Pop Cam, who's only had the 1 start. It was Pakenham synthetic, so I've got to take that synthetic form to turf. Got to take it to the Metro, but I was really impressed with its performance on debut. Won really impressively. I think second has since come out and been really well backed and won impressively as well. So I'm trusting the rating of those 2 horses. There's a few other horses in this race that have better credentials coming from Metro races, but I just don't know where they're at in terms of have they come back as 3-year-olds. So I'm happy to take Audio Pop Cam and Ferocious Frankie in the first. Race 4 again, I want to back 2 horses here. I want to back the 11 Maisie. Hated the setup last start, 1,400 to straight to 2,000 metres second up. It was always going to be weak at its last 200 metres. It's exactly how it evolved. I thought it was still pretty strong through the line. I noticed they go tongue-tie first time here. Wouldn't be surprised if they roll forward now. Second go 2,000 metres prep. on the minimum, 53.5. I want to be with Maisie. And I also want to be with the 7 here, Gen Reshirio. Yeah, I got that right, Gen Reshirio. I think it's ready. I think it might be better over 2,400, but Mooney Valley, record okay. Love what it came out of. I love that Mr. Vivace form line, 1,600 metres. I want to be with Mr. Vivace wherever it goes next. I want to back this horse at that sort of each way quote in the same race. Then we get to race 8, number 12, Hard to Cross. I want to back this each way. Now, there was double figures that went up early doors. It's now into sort of $7.50, $8. I still think it's a bet. I've still marked it shorter than that. I want to back Hard to Cross each way. Again, 51 kilos. Might be a bit sticky at some stage from where it gets to from barrier 3, but happy to be with it. It's got some really good numbers, Hard to Cross. I want to back it each way. And in the last, everyone's going to yell at me here and say this horse is a Flemington horse, Flemington horse, Flemington horse. Yep, its best figures are at Flemington. I agree with you. But it's mainly because it's been mainly running there all last prep. Every run was just about at Flemington. I'm talking about the horse called Bossy Nick. I thought its first up run behind King of Rousseau, which we've both got going really well. That was a really good race. It sort of settled and finished alongside Splashback, who I've got big opinion of. I think just now it just finds a backside and can finish all over the top of these double figures. I want to bet with Bossy Nick each way. It's won at Mornington. It's been able to win at Caulfield. It gets the right run in transit with the claim. I think I want to be with Bossy Nick each way. So that's my Victorian set for Mooney Valley. Have you got any comment on any of those? Do you want to just discard them all?
No.
Good.
No, I found it difficult to. I've done the Mooney Valley form. Don't have a huge opinion on any race, to be honest with you.
All right, Nico, let's get to New South Wales. Let's get to Randwick. It is Group 1 racing up there. True position the entire circuit. Heavy 10, because that's as high as it can be listed. But talking to you in the past, it probably won't be a 10. How high could it be?
I reckon about a 16 if we were doing it on a true handicap scale, if you like. So we'll see how things unfold. Inside lanes, bit of a no-go zone. The funny thing is when it gets like heavy 20 type stuff, sometimes the lanes just don't even matter anymore. It's just about who can get through it. But at this point in time, or at acceptance time, they were saying lanes 5 and beyond will provide the bulk of the winners. Back markers in play. You can circumnavigate. You can sort of be 3-4 deep coming around that home turn and still be effective in the finish.
I think that's a really good point that you mentioned is sometimes lanes aren't in play because when it does get this heavy, you will see big margins. And the reason why you see big margins is that some will get through it and some will just spit it out and don't want to be part of it. So in essence, it's just a matter of some will go faster no matter where they are and some will just absolutely cough it up. So I think that's a good point for the viewers out there to understand is that when it does get into these kinds of territories, it's just whatever you think can handle the going better than the rest. So that's the intel for Randwick punters. Let's get to the first Group 1 of the 2025-2026 racing season. It is obviously at Randwick. It is the Winx Stakes. Here's the market. Via Sistina, they sort of put up around 270, 280. That's been knocked off the board a little bit. She's a little bit shorter than that now, Nico. Gringotts is pretty tight in the market. Fangirls, obviously single figures. Aliana as well, and obviously Chow Wolf as well. Hopefully he can sort of bounce back to what he sort of could do in last spring. They're the other horses at single figures. Matt, point of view, mate. I'll let you roll through them, and then if there's any point of difference for me, I'll question you on it.
Yeah, okay. Look, I think Bjorn Baker's seen just a little opening here for two horses that otherwise would have no hope in a Group 1 weight for age race. I'm talking about Robusto and War Eternal. Robusto's had a little gap between runs, but is a classier customer than War Eternal. War Eternal's on the 7-day backup, which is perfect going into a heavy 27 track. So I think Robusto, the 1,400 metre start point, Julesy, at Randwick is probably the trickiest start point at headquarters here in Sydney. They run pretty much straight into that top corner. So you've only got about 150 metres, maybe sort of 200 metres before you start turning, maximum that is. So if you're drawn a bit out, you've got to make your mind up. Do you go and try and come across the face of the field or do you snag back? Robusto will go forward. That's what he's going to do. He's going to lead. I think Lindemann probably comes across with him. And I think War Eternal just lets those two sort of spear off and sits in behind them. I wouldn't be surprised if we then had just a small gap of about a length and a half to the next horse, which I think will be Gringotts. Now, the caveat on that is if Fangirl runs, Karen might sort of say, this is a good spot for us to be, just in behind that pace. But I think Gringotts has got a little bit more natural early speed than Fangirl. I think he comes across, Tommy goes and sits in that spot. He's here to rumble Gringotts. He only had 3 runs in the autumn. He won a Group 1 weight for age, race second up from a spell. I can't see him going towards a Cox Plate and big races like that towards the back end of the sprint, unlike Via Sestina and co. He's going to be targeting Winx Stakes, George Main Stakes, maybe the Chelmsford. This is his go. So I think they'll be happy to use him up a bit to get across. Then you've got Fangirl behind him. I think Via probably ends up 3 back along the rail, but she mightn't have much in front of her, which probably works for her to some degree. To her outside, you might have Fangirl, you might have Chill Wolf, you might have Aliana, and then you've got Arapaho and the rest behind them. I've put Full Count Felicia at the tail of the field. Now, she did lead, I think it was the Randwick during the autumn, but that was 2,000 metres first up. She has gone forward in some trials. So the caveat there is maybe they do use her up to go forward, but I think at 1,400 metres, we saw last week the Yulong Waller trained gallopers, Moira, Anisette and co. They all went back to the tail of the field. And I think she's going to do a similar thing on Saturday and just work through the line. So essentially, I think the pace will be genuine. I think Bjorn's going to try and win this race on the score of fitness. And what he's going to do is going to ask the jockeys on these high-profile runners like Via Sestina, like Fangirl, like Cheer Wolf, and like Aliana, hey, how much do you want to take out of yourself in this first up run to get me beaten?
I think this is a really good point, and I think this is great analysis because 9 of the 12 are first up, and Bjorn's got these horses that are hard fit. Now, we saw in the PB Lawrence down here in Melbourne last week, every horse just about was first up, and other than the Private Eye Desert Lightning off 63 days, but none of them wanted to get involved in a battle. Now, Private Eye had the class, and they said, you know what, he's fit enough anyway. He's got the residual. He's sort of up and about. He's ready to rock and roll for a Memsey or whatever it might be. So they were happy to go forward. You look at these horses first up here, and as you said, this is not going to be at that moderate tempo you'd think if Bjorn's like, I've got only one chance. My only chance is to bust these right up. At the 800, I want them gasping for air and going, I don't want to be here. Like, I actually don't want to be here because this is going to trash my prep doing this. It's fascinating, I think, from a tactical point of view. And if Bjorn's out there to do that, he will go out there to bust them up, surely.
Correct. I mean, having done a bit of work with Bjorn when he first came over from NZ, that's the tactics he will almost certainly adopt. I haven't spoken to him, but I'm almost certain that's what he's going to do. That's what those two horses are there for, to ask the question. And look, you know, if these other horses really put themselves into the race, they'll run Robusto down, but they're going to have to go from about the 800-metre mark to pick them up. The figure that Robusto posted last time out isn't quite good enough to win a Group 1 weight for age race, but it is if the rest don't make their run until the 600-metre mark. It's kind of like a mini version of the Queen Elizabeth Stakes in 2024 where Pride of Jenny went out by a massive margin. And it wasn't so much that she was going really fast. It was a combination of her going quick, but the rest going a bit slower than what was ideal.
I think it's outstanding. It's just going to be really fascinating market perspective to see how fast this race is going to be run and then actually how fast this race is run and actually who can absorb it and get through it, knowing that it is first up of a long prep. Let's get to your New South Wales set, Nico. Only a couple of runners, but I can understand why because you're dealing with some foreign territory here.
Yeah, and I'm also wary of scratchings. You know, maybe Waller wakes up and thinks, I don't want to run Via Sestina on a heavy 27. Let's keep her next week for the Memsey and go down to Melbourne with her. And if he does that, you're looking at 40% deductions. So, and that's, you know, same with Autumn Glow in her respective races, but we will touch on her race in a moment's time. First of the bets for me comes up in race 3, Juju Kibo. This was a horse that we backed going into its last run. First go 2,000 metres this preparation. We also put it in the hen house after its victory. Ran fast overall time. Normally I'd be a bit of a query and warm to a horse like Bluestone in this race because it's had multiple runs at 2,400 metres, whereas Juju goes to 2,400 first time this preparation. But it's out of a fast run, heavy track, 2,000 metre win, fast overall time. It tells me that this horse is probably ready for 2,400 metres. I think he probably ends up in a Metropolitan handicap if he keeps progressing, and I think this is a nice box for him to tick along the way. Wraithnock rode him last start. He did get a little bit lost on the point of the bend, so hopefully that doesn't happen again because he goes up 3 kilos of what he carried last time out. But I just think that this horse is an absolute swimmer, and I expect him to make it 4 from 8 on Saturday afternoon. Go forward now to race 7. This is the toy show. All eyes are going to be on Autumn Glow. We'll talk about her in a moment's time when we go through the mailbag. New segment, by the way, spoiler alert. Let's go down to number 9, though, More Territories. She's a really good fresh mare, this girl. She won first up last preparation. It was in a benchmark 1,400-metre race. The O'Shea Charlton camp were doing that so they could qualify for the Group 1 Surround Stakes at her next run. I think the go with this girl is just being fresh. Fresh is best with her. She trialled against the best of the best in Vauban and Via Sistina last time she went to the trials. The first up run in the autumn, as I said, was very, very good. Her other first up run in her career, she beat a horse called Nymphadora who was going really well. That was on debut. And her unplaced run, her only unplaced or non-winning run fresh was in the Furious Stakes last spring, where she was beaten a length and a half by Manal. Go and watch the replay. For mine, she should have won that race. On that occasion, she carried 56. So did Amina. So did Manal. So did Lazura. On this occasion on Saturday, she carries 53. Meanwhile, those girls are carrying 56 and 58 kilos. On a heavy 27 track, that 5 kilos is worth a fair bit, Jules, as you know. I think More Territories is probably the best bet all day. Go 1/3 on her. I don't think she'll miss a top 3 spot.
Beautiful. So that is Nick's New South Wales set, and very bullish about More Territories each way.
G'day sports fans, Daisy Thomas here with this week's declaration. Let's go. Was pretty keen on a couple up at Randwick, but with that track, and I'm not going to be sure how it is, that's a wait and see for me. So I've steered clear. I've gone to Mooney Valley, the Valley of Love. That is correct. Race 5, number 5, Space Rider. Okay, so this guy went in the black book, had first start, I think it was around Christmas time last year, won by 3.5 lengths. Donkey licked him up there in Brisbane. Second start, so was sent out at $1.14 and got rolled. We looked past that. They tipped him straight out, gone and given a few trials into this one, the 7-month let up or thereabouts. Few trials into this one, 1,200, the same distance he won first up and dominated on the Valley, got good tactical speed, puts himself into the race, and I think at $9 and $2.60 a place. This is an each-way play. Daisy's declaration, Space Rider, Mooney Valley, will be saying, pay the people.
Beautiful, Daisy. Let's hope you can back it up again, my friend. All right, now let's get into snap or don't snap. Mooney Valley, race 1, Cherish Me, $3.80 out there right now. It drifted first up. This 2-year-old to 3-year-old, don't know if it's improved at all. I'm happy to be against it. I just don't know where this horse is at. I think you're going to get a better price about Cherish Me. In race 3, again, exit around that $2.80, $2.90. Was well supported last start, but I thought it was plain. It does so many things wrong. I want to see it on a big track. Mooney Valley's not a big track. It just gives it an opportunity to somehow do a lot of things wrong. I think it starts much bigger than that $2.90. Well, maybe not much bigger, but I think you get a better price at some stage in betting. And in race 7, number 2, probably the most fascinating horse of the day at Mooney Valley, Barrackeel, around $4.40, $4.60 points bet right now. Just never been in a 1,000-metre race. It's off 287 days. Probably maps at best leaders back, but as we said, it probably doesn't get there. 3-back rail. I think the market just has to take a set against it. I think you'll get better for Barrackeel. That was the snap or don't snaps. All of them were don't snaps. Pin the tail. 2-1, Nico. After Scenic Point, drifted like one of those barges in the Arctic Ocean that just continues to go out to sea, and maybe that horse might just continue to be with that. $2.75 U. I was ridiculous because I just didn't want to play in the race and had no idea. Went with $2.40. It ended up seeing the reverse of that. It started $4.20 Scenic Point, so you get the points there. This week, no bigger horse racing in Australia than probably in this whole spring carnival than Via Sistina in the Winx Stakes. She's first up off 133 days, Nico. She's had the 2 trials. In the Apollo, you know, she was off 98 days, 2 trials. She sort of started $2.15. I think there's more guts to this race. You've spoke about the lane. She's drawn one. The tempo might really worry her first up. I reckon the market has to just be aggressive with her. If I'm a bookmaker here, I want to be aggressive against her at some stage on this heavy track and just say, hey, let's try and get some money out of her. We might not get any money out of her later when she gets to 16 and 2,000 because we know she's so dominant. But here's your opportunity, bookmakers. Be a bit aggressive and let the punters on. I'm saying $3.20 SP for Via Sistina. You, my friend?
Yeah, look, I was sort of thinking the same thing. Barrier 1, but then I did the map, and I think Bjorn's going to fly along in front. So those gaps are going to come for J-Mac. She's going to get out. I'd be more worried about a slowly run race. She loves fast run races, Via Sistina.
But in the prep, though, is she going to be at 95% fitness? That's my only thing there.
Well,
I 100% agree with you. The faster they go, the better she goes. Absolutely. But that's when she's fourth up.
Correct. So she might be a risk, sure, 100%. But I don't think Chris will have a forward enough. Yep. He'll see what's coming on Saturday. He'll have a forward enough. And then, look, the heavy tracks, obviously, she's only had one heavy track run in Australia. She got beaten. It was the worst run ever in the Maccabi Diva. But was that because she was second up from the spell where she always
it was second up
down?
Off a really soft tempo. I think there's no issue there with the wet track either. Yeah.
It went the other way. So I'm not going to pin her on that either. And then you go, okay, well, if she's going to drift, where does that market percentage goes? I can make a case for Gringotts tightening up. He's about the 550 mark. I could see him starting with a 4 in front of his name because he's, I think, going to be the most forward of the big guns, if you like. And maybe Aliana, she's a real unknown, but she's, I'm in love with her.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit there, but she's not exactly double figures now. She's $8 already. How much shorter can she get? But the rest, they're not going to back Fangirl, surely.
Yeah, no.
She's hopeless on a heavy track. Cheerwolf, I don't know. I just don't know where the market percentage goes to. So, mate, I've left her at 280, and frankly, I think she could even start shorter.
Yep, that's fair. That's Pin the Tail this week. Let's get to Larry's letterbox. New one. Let's zip through it. You lead off here, mate, and then you're going to lead into another little segment called Binoculars. Go.
Yeah, Charlie got in contact on the socials. Autumn Glow, is she immoral on Saturday? The short answer is no. She's around the even money mark. First go on a real bottomless track. Do they run her? I don't know. Here's the tip for you, Charlie, and anyone else listening. If you think she's going to win on Saturday, she probably gets offered an Everest slot if she does, and she runs similar time to what she did in the autumn. So I reckon go and take that $17 best price in the market right now at PointsBet for the Everest.
Beautiful. What about binoculars? Anything there, mate? What are we doing? What are we looking for? What is a horse we want to keep an eye on that maybe for the futures?
It's my love affinity with Aliana, and it ties in with Autumn Glow, who we just spoke about as well. Here's the thing. If Autumn Glow gets an Everest slot and she goes that way, not the Epsom handicap that she's sort of been touted as going for, maybe we see Aliana go towards an Epsom handicap. So I think the binoculars are on Autumn Glow, binoculars on Aliana to see how she goes through. Most importantly, the betting flux on Aliana. That'll tell us how forward she is, and it might tell us whether she's got an earlier spring goal in the first or second week of October, or maybe it's a little later on in the carnival.
Beautiful. Love that. Make sure you keep hitting us up over socials, Foxcatcher, Intel, all the socials, because we will be answering all your questions throughout this season. Plays of the day really quickly. Race 8, number 12, hard to cross each way, 51 kilos for me at Mooney Valley. You?
Race 7, number 9, More Territories. I can't speak highly enough, 1/3.
Stay alive.
Mwah.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.